Welcome back, Smashing here. So time for my review for the 2024 Bahrain Grand Prix, the opening race of this year's Formula One season. So it started with Verstappen on pole and Leclerc alongside him on the front row. Everyone was starting on the soft tires to start. Everyone was pretty much fixed on the same strategy throughout the race, but that's something I'll get to later. So Verstappen had a very good start, managed to hold on into the lead going into the first corner. There was a bit of contact further back in the field. Stroll was hit by Hulkenberg going into turn one. It was kind of a 50-50 move, and they never gave a penalty for this, so I guess the stewards kind of agreed with that. But Stroll was spun around, sent to the back. Bottas also kind of got caught up in it. I don't think had contact, but he really got caught out, and he really had to slow down, so he was basically also at the back after that. And Hulkenberg had front wing damage, so he had to go to the pits for repairs, and his race was basically over from there. Perez got up to P4 though, so he had a good start off the line. Going on to the second lap, so of course one of the new rules for this year was that DRS is now available from the second lap of the race, and Sargent made good use of that, overtaking Ricciardo for P14 at turn 3. The following lap, Norris overtook Alonso for P6 at turn 1, and Russell overtook Leclerc for P2 at turn 4. So some of the early signs for the race pace, gap between the McLaren and the Aston showing up very, very early. For Leclerc, he really struggled the opening half of the race, I would say. The balance of the car looked awful. He was locking up, and he was having real problems driving it. So loses his first position there. Lap 5, Norris, not able, after overtaking Alonso, was not able to keep up with the train basically that was forming from P2 to P5. So that was basically all the way between Russell and Sainz. And Piastri then overtakes Alonso for P8. Lap 7, Perez overtakes Leclerc for P3, the final spot on the podium at turn 1. And Leclerc is still having lots of trouble continuing to lock up almost every single lap at turn 10. Lap 10, Hamilton overtakes Alonso for P8 at turn 1. And Stroll and Zhou start the pit cycle, pitting that lap. Sargent, that same lap, was stopped in the runoff area. We had some yellow flags, but no safety car or virtual safety car as he was able to get going. It was a bit of a strange one, not really sure what happened there. It looked like he just locked up going into turn 4, and then he had some kind of issue with the car, and he took quite a while to get going, almost a full minute, so we lost a lot of time there. But it looked like a bit of a mistake there for Sargent. Now, Sainz, that same lap, a lot happening on this lap here. Sainz overtakes Leclerc for P4 at turn 1, very, very close to having wheel-to-wheel contact there, but they kept it clean, and I'm sure the team at Ferrari were very happy that they didn't make contact. Lap 14, Perez overtakes Russell for P2, so cementing a Red Bull 1-2 at this point at turn 4. At this point, we were kind of in the middle of the pit cycle, and Sainz, who had overtaken Leclerc, was undercut by him through the pit stops. But Leclerc is still having issues with the balance of the car, still having a lot of front locking. Lap 17, though, Sainz was able to overtake Leclerc, retake P4 at turn 1. And Verstappen at this point was the last driver to pit. Stroll was up to P11 as well. So despite getting spun on the opening corner, Stroll had a really good first stint in the race and was basically able, through the pit stop cycle, was able to move himself up to just outside of the points. Leclerc basically comes on the radio and says that his car is turning right under braking and that it's dangerous. So Leclerc's car was having all sorts of issues the first half of the race. Not sure if it was a setup issue, not sure if it was just the balance of the car was really, really poor, but it was quite strange that Sainz's Ferrari was fine, but Leclerc's Ferrari was having all these issues. So that's something that to keep a lookout for in the media interviews and so on. Lap 18, Sainz overtakes Russell for P3 at turn 4, so that race pace from the Ferrari does look quite good and did look to be a bit stronger than the Mercedes today. Perez at this point had gained 5 seconds on Verstappen from Verstappen's late stop, so just having that difference in a couple laps difference in pit stop gained Perez 5 seconds. But at this point, Verstappen is still in the lead by about, I think, 6 or 7 seconds, so not really anything to worry from his side. Lap 23, the gap between Perez and Sainz was 2.2 seconds, so Sainz still hanging on there, and not letting Perez get too much room. The gap between Verstappen and Perez for the lead of the race was 9.9 seconds. Hamilton comes on the radio, says his seat's broken. We didn't really hear anything after that, so I don't know what exactly that was. But yeah, doesn't seem to be a big issue. Then a couple laps later, Albon was complaining about the screen not working, and of course, somewhat infamously, the Williams had basically refused to have a screen on their steering wheel for about 10 years or so after everyone else had already adopted that. And this was the first year that they had that. So looked like the system had a couple teething problems, but of course that's kind of understandable. But again, really important for Williams to be modernizing all of their systems and technology. Lap 28, the Verstappen-Perez gap had increased to 14 seconds, so Verstappen took him a good chunk of time out of him there on his new hard tires, and the gap between Perez and Sainz was 2.2 seconds, so about the same from the beginning of that phase of the race. So, Sainz doing a really good job holding on to Perez. Stroll then pits as well, lap 28, so he had an 18-lap stint on those hard tires. Lap 32, Bottas, 52-second pit stop. They had some kind of issue with the wheel gun putting the tire on, and this led to massive issues. They basically had to it looked like they had destroyed the wheel, and so they had to go get a new one, and it was basically chaos. But 52 seconds off for Bottas basically ruined his race. Nothing he could do, of course. Lap 33, Verstappen Perez gap 16.9 seconds, so kind of evened out at this point. But Perez had basically pulled a second on Sainz in those 5 laps. Stroll, after his pit stop, overtakes Show for P13, but of course this was basically virtually P10, so an important battle for that final point at turn 1. Lap 35, Piastri pits. Coming out of the pits, he loses a position to Hamilton, who had pitted the lap before at turn 1. Piastri just kind of, they were very, very close on pit exit, but Piastri kind of just makes a small mistake at turn 1, and that allows Hamilton to take P8. Lap 37-38, Perez and Verstappen pitted. They were not the last drivers to pit, but they both pitted for soft tires. So a bit of a different strategy from some of the other teams. I think Ricciardo was the only other driver to pit for softs, and we can talk about that a bit later. So Red Bull very confident that they can run the last stint of the race on soft tires. Lap 42, Alonso was the last driver to pit. He did his final pit stop, I believe, for soft. I believe it was softs, and so he actually fell out of the points from this point. But lap 45, he overtook Show to retake P10. Lap 46, Leclerc, the balance of the car seemed to be a lot better that second half of the race, and he overtook Russell for P4 at turn 11. It was helped by Russell locking up at turn 10, the really, really tricky off-camber corner that F1 hates. Leclerc able to get up to P4, so that's Red Bull 1-2, and then a Ferrari 3-4 at this point in the race. Lap 48, Alonso overtakes Stroll for P9, basically regaining the position that he had before his pit stop. Lap 50, this is where Racing Bulls decide that they want Ricciardo in front of Tsunoda because they think that Ricciardo on his soft tires has a better chance of overtaking Magnussen for P12. Now, I remind you, this is P12. They're both outside the points. Stroll was quite a ways up the road, and don't think it really had much of an effect. I don't think this battle will have much of an effect on the Constructors' Championship at the end of the year. But the team decided to swap drivers, and Tsunoda is basically livid. He's coming on the radio complaining about it. Ricciardo was also expressing his displeasure about how long it took for Tsunoda to swap positions. So they do swap positions basically like a lap and a half after Tsunoda was first asked to do it. But you can see from the result, Magnussen is still ahead of both Ricciardo and Tsunoda, and they did not swap positions at the end. So that was interesting as well, because usually if drivers are asked to swap position mid-race, if the driver who's put in front doesn't gain any positions, usually they switch the positions back at the end. So interesting to see that they didn't do that here. But final lap of the race, lap 57, Verstappen takes the checkered flag, basically just cruised around the whole time. Took his Grand Slam as well, so a very ominous start to the year for everyone else. So took the win, pole, fastest lap, led every lap as well, full 26 points. So pretty ominous start to the year for Verstappen, perfect race for him. So just finishing up with a look at the race order and championship standings. So Verstappen's first, 26 points. Perez second, 18. So very good start for Perez. He'll be very happy, I think, with how this race went. Sainz third and fifth with 15. Leclerc fourth with 12. Russell fifth with 10. Norris sixth with 8 points. Hamilton seventh with 6 points. I think he'll be a bit disappointed with that with today. Piastri eighth with 4. Alonso ninth with 2 points, and Stroll final points paying position with 1 point. Very good recovery drive for him, I thought. And then outside the points, we had Joe, Magnussen, Ricciardo, Tsunoda, Albon, Hulkenberg, Ocon, Gasly, Bottas, and Sargent, all with no points. And everyone finished today, so no DNFs as well. So yeah, reliability looking strong as ever. Red Bull and Verstappen looking as strong as ever. I know not the best, most encouraging starts to the season, but I think another important thing that I want to make is that we did have testing here. The drivers and the team all had three basically 3 days of practice sessions before this weekend, so they had a ton of time on this track. So basically everyone had a pretty much their perfect setup for this race. I think when we go to other tracks where they don't have 3 days of testing at those tracks, teams won't be able to get the perfect setup, and there will be mistakes. There will be differences between the quali pace and the race pace. So I'm not too concerned yet for the start of the season. I do think just having testing and then the first race at the same venue back to back, I know logistically it's cheaper and it makes sense, but from a racing perspective, it usually means that that first race is not going to be as good. So that's all for my review. I'm sorry it's a bit late. I was very busy yesterday and I didn't really have time. I guess, yeah, I mean, time zones all mixed up for everyone. But yeah, I was basically, the short story is, I was a bit too busy yesterday to do the review when the race actually happened. So yeah, thank you so much for watching, and goodbye.